1, 2, 3, 4.
Why do a countdown? I'll just make us laugh even more. Welcome to the British Boxing Vlog podcast. We are on episode 4. It's nice to be here already. I think we've hit 3 episodes.
I
know, just for those of you listening, this is the second take at the beginning. A few technical issues, not having the microphone plugged in, basically.
But yes, and thank you for joining us. We've loved it so far. We've seemed to be getting a bit positive feedback, which is always nice. But thank you for your questions. Thanks for subscribing on iTunes and YouTube and SoundCloud. We're on everywhere these days.
Make sure you do keep subscribing, especially on YouTube, because when we do get the chance, we'll have some video interviews as we have done this week.
We've had 2 go up this week. Yeah, sorry to cut you off there.
So no, it's fine. So in addition to the podcast, those sorts of things will be going on there when we can get them, when we get access.
Yeah.
We've also like to make clear we do welcome some negative feedback as well, as long as it's constructive. If you've got any ideas where we can improve the podcast, we are more than willing to listen and probably ignore them. But
as long as you're not just calling us Geordie knobs, just
yeah, we get enough of that in normal everyday life.
But no, it's good to be here. I think we best start with we'll review last night's Frampton Reborn card from Belfast, which was on BT Sport.
Yeah, you actually sat and watched it. I was otherwise engaged, so I haven't actually seen any of the fights. I've seen clips of some. A particular highlight of the Teti fight was enough, really.
11-second clip.
But we'll get onto that later. I think we'll start with the main event.
When he says otherwise engaged, he was watching Newcastle get beat at Old Trafford yesterday.
But for my sins.
We'll not go into that.
An enjoyable day out, but we'll leave that one for some of
as is the case when you watch Newcastle. It's always a good day out. It's just the match that
the match is sort of the worst part of it.
But there was some positives to take from it. I thought we played well in spells, haven't we? But you're never gonna. These aren't the games we need to get points from. It's the other games, I guess. But anyway, this isn't a black and white podcast, so we'll crack on with the boxing.
We started with a few positive rounds early on, and then ultimately knocked out.
More than to come this season, no doubt about that. But yes, Carl Frampton against Horacio Garcia last night in Belfast. Great to see Carl back in Belfast. The atmosphere came across on the TV as being absolutely brilliant. They just love him over there. Just total favourite son. Just a great lively atmosphere, and especially with a few local lads.
So in terms of the event,
as well.
obviously Garcia brought next to nothing to the event in terms of name recognition.
No. Well, Canelo was a nice. The amount of photos I've seen of Canelo on social media this morning. It's a good drinking game, that. Canelo shot drinking game. Oh, there's Tommy Coyle's shot. Everyone was there with him last night, but he didn't look too pleased about it. But no, he didn't. He wasn't someone I was too aware of, to be honest, going into the fight, and I think the bookmakers odds reflected that as well. Frampton started 100 to 1 on last night in the fight, which sharp came in when I was around 4-5. He won the fight, and obviously unanimously on the judges' scorecards. I had no issue with him winning the fight at all. I think I had him 2 rounds up at the end. I think 98, 93 was maybe a bit wide, but I was saying, reflecting on this on Twitter last night, it was funny because if you read our tweets back, then the early few tweets were sensational boxing from Frampton, no signs of ring rust, his jab was there, his left hooks were brilliant, he was boxing on the back foot, really, really nicely early on. Maybe first 3 rounds he was just looking sharp, and everything was there, reflexes were fantastic. And I think it was round 4, I think Garcia kept coming forward, not in any fancy style or anything, just closing the gap and really just surging forward and really trying to take it to Carl. And credit to Garcia, he was as hard as they come. He had a great chin, he was a good engine, catching Carl flush with some nice shots at times. I think I'm giving him 4, 5 and 6, and he had a really good go at it last night. He was a credible opponent, which I guess we were dubious about at first.
Yeah, was he a credible opponent, or did Frampton perform significantly under par?
He was under par, definitely. It wasn't vintage Frampton. Maybe the first few rounds were, but he definitely tired. There's no doubt about that. He definitely, I wouldn't say gassed, because when I think of gassed, I think David Price. You know what I mean? Like,
totally exhausted.
He was tired, mind. He was tired. When he got dragged into Garcia's type of fight, a bit of a war. I thought he spent too long on the ropes. which I know he said it was something he was working on with Jamie Moore in training, being on the ropes, and but it was too long, it was too uncomfortable at times, and he made it a lot harder for himself than maybe it needed to be. Whether that's a conditioning issue or a ring rust issue, or as Richie Woodall kept pointing out last night, he hasn't fought since January, which
he has, and that'll undoubtedly have had an impact.
Yeah, definitely.
As you say, new trainer, so he's working on different things in the gym.
Yeah.
Obviously, you'd spoken to Jamie Moore last week in the Newcastle Arena, and he was mentioning some of the methods and things.
I think it was a less, how do we describe it? Carl described it as balls to the floor with Shane McGuigan every day, flat out. And I think Jamie was saying is that Carl's now 30, 31, maybe 30, I think.
30, I think.
And he's got a lot of miles on the clock already. He's got good natural fitness, and there was no need to really, hammer him in the gym every day, and it was sort of building up naturally and with scientific methods and stuff. But I guess he came out of last night with a few question marks over that, because it didn't. There was definitely signs of Carl slowing during the fight, and Garcia was trying to capitalise on that, and
in a 10-rounder as well.
In a 10-rounder as well, that's it. And I know the Boxing Madman on Twitter has asked us the question: do you think the outcome would be different if the fight went, was 2 more rounds, a 12-rounder fight?
Do you think so?
I don't think so. I actually gave Carl the last round of the fight, round 10. I think he was visibly tired, but he landed the cleaner shots, whereas Garcia was maybe smothering his own work, and it was too wild, he was missing a lot, trying to land a big shot, and I think Carl picked up on that and boxed quite clever the last round. Definitely tiring though. There was, he was definitely slowing down, maybe from about round 5-6 onwards, which I think would maybe be a bit alarming, really. It just wasn't vintage Frampton, and for the first time I think in a while, people are now questioning them. And I've seen things on social media this morning, and I think Kate Galahad's chipped in with a few. Oh, what happened to you last night, Carl? What was it? Your conditioning? Was it did you gas? Were you unfit, etc. But someone else, another guy I seen on Twitter, was saying, oh, this is what happens when you've got a new trainer, in inverted commas, enjoying your boxing and boxing with a smile on your face, and seemed to think it was a lot of jog and bluster, really. Which, I'm not going to sit here and say Carl Frampton's a fighter on the way and on the downhill. Do you know what I mean? He's still an elite fighter in this country. He's one of the best we've got with this, Great Britain.
Yeah. Yes.
But I think
we had him pound for pound number one in terms of the British and Irish rankings.
I just think last night there'll be people watching that thinking, something maybe just wasn't quite right there.
You've mentioned Kid Galahad there, and I don't think he's the most relevant potential opponent.
No,
I can't see him getting anywhere near the Frampton shot, to be honest. But there'll be other fighters in that deep featherweight division. Scott Quigg and Josh Warrington were both there doing punditry. Lee Selby's been mentioned as a potential opponent. You've got Oscar Valdez, the WBO champion. Obviously Frank Warren has worked quite closely with the WBO in the past.
Frank said as much last night that Selby and Warrington's more or less confirmed for next year, so that keeps them occupied for a bit.
But then you've got arguably the winner of that in the summer, depending on when they get it on.
Carl touched on the fact that he wants to be back out, and I think Jamie Moore said as well, he wants to see Carl back out there in March or April next year, which to me makes perfect sense, because there's definitely stuff to work on, and I think a few more months with Jamie will probably help that as well.
Well, we've seen that in the past with other fighters. When they go with a new trainer, it's always beneficial to have, long camps and lots of time in the gym, but there's no substitute for that actual being in the ring boxing and having that, putting what you've learned in training into practice in an actual competitive fight.
If he could fight another similar fighter last night, a 12-rounder this time against an opponent of Garcia's calibre and standard, who would come over here and actually give Carl a fight. There's no point now for Carl fighting bums and people who won't give him a credible test.
Someone puts out in a couple of rounds.
Apparently Carl was saying he had a lot of input into last night's opponent, and he said that this time he maybe leave it up to the team. Because he says he definitely made it a harder night's work than he should have for him. But I think we've got to give him the benefit of the doubt. He has had a tough year with the Cyclone split, the loss to Santa Cruz in the second fight there, the fall through of the Gutierrez fight. There's we don't know the ins and outs of the Cyclone split, but it mustn't have been an easy time for him. He said himself, he said he was off his boxing, his mindset just wasn't there at all, and you do get the feeling that it's been a bit of a bad year for Carl. But he won the fight. There was question, he didn't win it all too convincingly. There was question marks over him, and there is now, for probably the first time in years, really, that people have doubted Carl Frampton.
I think because prior to the second Santa Cruz fight, everything had just seemingly gone perfectly for Carl Frampton.
Yeah.
The fact that he was with Shane McGuigan, almost a father figure in Barry, they were like family. That whole team just seemed a perfect fit. You had them as best mates, they were trainer. Shane's building his reputation as this obviously young, progressive trainer and coaching Frampton to a world title, 2 weight divisions, won his biggest fight away in America against Santa Cruz.
Beat Scott Quigg. Domestic rival as well.
Just everything was going so well.
Curve, and without, we're not privy to the reasons for the cyclone split, but it obviously hasn't been too amicable, I guess. Well,
they've come out, and both sides have come out and said as much that they're not speaking. Shane McGuigan said he hasn't spoken to Carl. I can't remember what it was since.
Which is a shame, it is, it is, because they looked so perfect, really. And if you like us, if you watched the Fight Game documentaries that were on BBC iPlayer earlier in the year, you just thought, wow, what a tight knit camp, and everything's just seemed perfect. Barry McGuigan, the Northern Irish legend, with nurturing this other, now.
But then
it's like the prodigal son type of thing. And
the other boxers in that camp, it was like everything was just going nicely for them. It was building really, really well, and obviously.
And it was odd. It was odd last night saying with Jamie Moore in his corner, and you think, but it's going to take time, I guess, to gel to fully, strike up a working relationship as close as he had with Shane, with a new trainer, and there was a guy that tweeted us last night saying, can you see the improvements? Because I can. And I thought, well, actually, as I said, the first few rounds, Frampton was faultless. He was boxing on the back foot.
But is that an improvement? Because Frampton's been faultless in previous fights.
There's not much. Carl Frampton's a world-class fighter. Let's not,
Yeah, Jamie Moore would be foolish to come in and think, right, I'm going to change everything.
Rip it up and start again.
So those little tweaks and things, it may be another 6 months before... Carl's fully used to
Frampton and Jamie Moore
that new method, and
I think they both need the benefit of the doubt. For now, he did win the fight. I think he would have won it if it was a 12 rounder. I really do. But there is question marks over him now, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens in March and April. And I enjoyed Frank Warren's interview in the ring last night. He publicly came out and said, "Yep, he'll be back in Northern Ireland in Windsor Park in a world title fight in the summer," which I thought, wow, go on, Frank. You're putting a bit of pressure on yourself there. You're saying that publicly, and that's something he now has to deliver.
Do you think, though, that maybe when Carl signed with Frank, he's made it pretty clear that, right, I'm signing with you, because it was more of a coup for Frank Warren, I think, in many people's eyes, than it was Carl Frampton.
Yeah.
So maybe Carl has that bit more say. He's obviously got MTK backing him now as well, from a management point of view. They've said, right, he will fight on BT Sport, Box Nation, whatever, but this is the progression that we want. This is what's happening.
Yeah, Carl now is in that latter part. He may only have a few fights left, Carl Frampton, 3, 4, 5, if that. He now needs the big fights, the money fights as well. There's no point in Carl Frampton. Last night was his homecoming. He needs one more. Personally, I think he needs one more before world title fight, just to work out these issues that he had last night, and continue to shake off the ring rust, really. I think it suits him being active. I think last night proved that long layoff probably didn't do him any good. But yeah, Carl needs the big fights now. He needs, he needs to be a world champion again.
Who would you like to see him fight then after his sort of next tune-up, shall we say, for this big one in the summer? You've got the winner of Selby Warrington.
Yeah, that's
Oscar Valdez, Gary Russell Jr. They're the sort of 3.
I think Oscar Valdez is the more likely opponent.
That's my preferred choice out of those, I think.
Right.
I think, yes, a domestic clash is always nice.
I'd like to see him fight Selby.
I think personally Selby will beat Warrington.
Yeah, and I think Carl beats Warrington easily too.
Yeah, but I think Selby Carl would be very technical, almost like that stereotypical chess match in boxing. Whereas in terms of a fan-friendly clash, Oscar Valdez comes forward, he's very aggressive, can leave himself open, and I think his style along with Carl's would mesh really, really well, and it's a very winnable fight for another world title for Carl Frampton.
I think Santa Cruz 3 at some point might happen. I don't think that's any chance of that happening soon. They are one apiece, and
he's made it pretty clear he's not interested in particularly in coming to Ireland for that, though, is he?
Yeah, fair enough. Quigg was there last night doing some punditry on BT Sport. Of course, he said he wants to fight again, but let's be brutally honest here, that's not happening. There was
He
no
needs
need.
another sort of big win, I think, to
He
get
does,
himself right in the
but
mix at featherweight.
Even the mix between the relationship between Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren, I can't see that particularly happening again, unless it's another box office fight. And
that's what I mean.
that's
No, there's not the demand for it there
there's
was
not the demand for
previously.
it. That night
Quigg
after-
needs a big
yeah.
win to put himself back in the mix. He hasn't really done much at
I
featherweight.
think if he gets the big win, I think we were there that night, Frampton Quigg at the Manchester Arena, and I think coming out of the arena that night, there was no like calls for wow, we need to see that again. That was done then for me. I think it would.
I think because Frampton, in our eyes, won it fairly comfortably, and it never really caught fire. There was a couple of half exciting rounds where Quigg actually was a bit desperate almost and was swinging and come out fighting, but Frampton for us was never in doubt of losing that fight from the early lead that he picked up and won a couple of the later rounds as well. And just as I say, it didn't really warrant a rematch.
I think just to wrap this bit up with about Carl, I think let's not be too negative, and I think he's back boxing, he's back in Belfast, his home city, where he's absolutely adored. The atmosphere seemed fantastic last night. It's great to get him back on TV as well, on BT Sport. And I think maybe the questions over him now maybe add for a bit of an exciting future. Do you know what I mean? It's good to be talking about Carl Frampton again, and it is interesting to see what happens next, and I look forward to seeing him back in March and April. But he won the fight against a very tough opponent, and credit to Garcia. I'd like to see him over here again. I think if he boxed last night, he would give other British fighters a good run for the money, I tell you. He did himself no harm at all, really. But yeah, it was good to see Carl back. I have no objections to him winning the fight, and let's see where he goes from here. Let's watch this space, I guess.
Elsewhere on the card, there were 2 world title fights further down the bill.
Well,
which one of those would you like to start us off with?
We'll start with Tete.
This is one of the little rare bits of
it was a bit
action I've seen.
A slight complaint for me here was that he wasn't actually on the televised BT Sport broadcast, which kicked off at 8:30 on BT Sport due to the Newcastle game being on earlier and what have you. He was on Box Nation, I think, between 7:30 and 8:30, which not everyone is a subscriber, I guess. And I thought it was just a bit odd to have a world title fight 5th down the bill. Do you know what I mean? Not on you've marketed that with having 2 world title fights on the undercard. And I get it. You've got to put Paddy Barnes on there, and you've got to put John O'Cowell on there because they're
it's the ticket sellers in Belfast, really.
But Tete, it was a world title fight to have it 5th down the bill for main event, and not on your main.
Well, I didn't realise that, to be honest. Yeah. I had no idea of the running order, but. Again, I had something that I'd previously mentioned, the fact that Frank signed Tete on the back of the Paul Butler win.
Yeah.
He seemingly signed him without having a real plan for him.
It's hard to market him.
He's been put on a few undercards, but he's got no sort of loyal backing in this country or anywhere across Britain. There was rumours, I think, that this fight was supposedly meant to be his homecoming in South Africa on another show. But then that fell through, and Frank's obviously picked it up, put it on this card, thinking, well, brilliant, I've got another world title fight. I can add that, and when I'm selling this show, I can say, there's 2 world title fights on.
What's your thoughts on him potentially boxing Ryan Burnett?
I think that's
taking away the Warren Hearn relationship here. I would like to see that.
That's what I'd like to see.
Adam Wood was there last night, and
Ryan Burnett obviously has been fantastic recently, and he's now like a unified champion in that division. And Tete is almost in the mould of like your Rigondeaux, in that he's not going to be a massive seller. It's not going to be a hugely rewarding fight financially for Burnett. But in terms of challenging himself in a legacy and building that and getting respect among what you call the hardcore boxing community, it's definitely a fight that there's a lot for him to gain in that sense, in terms of respect. And if he wants to, every boxer says it, but if he wants to challenge himself, it's a potentially very tricky fight for him, and one that would generate, I think, a lot of interest among knowledgeable boxing fans.
And just to say it, if we haven't actually mentioned it yet, but the reason we're talking about Tete is that because he broke a world record last night for the quickest ever knockout in a world title fight with 11 seconds.
I didn't even know how that could work, because I thought, he'll have to have a 10 count, but seeing it was waved off well before that, quite rightly as well. I think
Bell goes out the corner, literally.
I think Gonya sort of threw a jab or something and missed. It was out of a little bit of range, and it was just a right hook, came back, absolutely floored him.
Absolutely brutal, just ice cold. He was out. He was gone, totally unconscious, and it was stunning, really. And it was an amazing thing to do, and an amazing record to have, really. And that's why we're talking about Teddy, I guess. And it was. BT probably didn't show it until like 11:30 last night. So, just at the end of the show, here's Teddy Murley, and that was the only gripe I had with it, really. It was just a shame to not have a world title fight for all 11 seconds.
I think
on
in
the main
terms
broadcast,
of
really.
the Burnett fight, we've mentioned there between Warren and Hearn, there's always politics gets in the way and never seemingly happens. I think because he's not a massive seller for Teddy, Warren might be more inclined just to send him over to a matchroom show.
I think on this occasion, why not? Like, if he backs his man and he thinks he can beat Ryan Burnett, then do it. Be the party spoiler. Let him go on the matchroom show. You get well paid for it, I'm sure. And there has. I don't think there's been a thawing of the relationship, but I know it's happened before on rare occasions. Bradley Skeet, Sam Egan was one. Why not? He's not risking his big seller, and he's not risking his headline fighter who he builds shows around at all. So what a great fight that would be. Ryan Burnett and Teddy, that would be a cracking fight.
Again,
on this occasion, why not?
He's had him fight in Belfast, so the Belfast fans will remember him and see him as a legitimate threat to Burnett.
Wouldn't it be nice if that could happen? Get a couple of Hearn fighters on the other
fantastic.
A couple of the Belfast lads, maybe a couple of Warren fighters again, and try it, but we can all hope, we can all hope for this dream.
In an ideal world.
Boxing utopia. But stunning, absolutely stunning. Right, we'll move on next to Jamie Conlon.
Yeah, the world title fight. This was the IBF super flyweight title belonging to Jerwin Ancajas of the Philippines, I believe.
Stunning, absolutely sensational. Loved watching him. I love Jamie Conlon, and he's someone that we've covered, a lot in the past and closely. Mainly, probably, I guess now because of his fight with Anthony Nelson from South Shields a couple of years ago, who's quite close to Anthony and his team down there. And we've kept an eye on Jamie since, and we touched on it last week when we said no disrespect, but if you're going toe to toe with Anthony, then maybe this is going to be a step too far. But saying that, I didn't realise, I'd never seen Ancajas before. I know you had, but wow, what a special fighter! It was like Pacquiao Mark II. He looked big. It was just his shots would come from all over the angles. He was powerful. Just levels, just levels. That's what exactly.
I'd be lying if I said I took no satisfaction in sort of correctly predicting this.
I love Jamie Conlon.
To be honest, if I was picking with my heart every time, I'd wanted Jamie Conlon to go out and do that and win in front of his home crowd. But it is nice that I've sort of predicted, and it's not the boldest of predictions for anyone that was aware of Ancajas, but he is a class act, and as you say, levels like Jamie Conlon, who's 25, he's young enough to come back.
It was such a shame because
it's not just I would say his ability, it's the style as well. Like, it's all very well being in these exciting fights, but half of the reason that he's in exciting fights is because he gets cut easily, because he gets dropped.
Did you see where he went down in the first round last night?
No, I haven't seen any of this one actually. I know what's happened round by round.
He took a shot, and not even a big shot, and he waited a few seconds and went down, and the commentators are saying, maybe he's done his knee and he's done this, but I don't know, it just went wrong from the start last night. He had a bit of a freak knockdown in the first round.
Was he cut in the second?
He was cut, he was down again, and I was saying to a few friends watching it, I thought, I'm not a boxing trainer, I'm not a boxing coach, I've never been a boxer, was there a case to maybe pull him out? And I know it's his home city and it's his world title fight, and people are saying, don't be stupid, he should go out on his shield, which he did in the end. But I think the referee, I think it was Steve Gray, he'd seen enough, I think, by that point of the fight, and he was. That was
the sixth round, wasn't it?
He was still up Conlon, but he was just taking clean punches, and he was just taking a beating, really.
That's what I mean in terms of his style and ability. Yes, he's obviously a very good boxer to even get anywhere near a world title fight, but
I've seen someone on Twitter
against the better fighters in another deep division in super flyweight. He's young enough at 25 to come back and rebuild and get himself in with another title shot. But if there are still 3 or 4 fighters at the level of Ancajas, where does he go? And the Boxing Madman asked that, saying like just how far can he go? Well, he showed real grit last night, and I think grit and determination and heart and all of those sorts of qualities, they can carry you so far.
I don't think Jamie Conlon can do it any other way. That's just what he does. It's just how he fights. And I think, what a brave, hard man though. What a hard case he is. Like, he was up again, and every time he was down, he was back up. And
oh yeah,
you will him on.
I think he would do that all night if he was allowed to.
You sit there and you watch him, and you think, wow, you hard, like proper boxer.
But then against
proper hard bastard, like,
against the likes of Inoue and obviously Anka has to fly, even Kaliafai possibly.
And he carries himself with a lot of class.
If he kept doing that and goes with that style, I think it would be a very similar result.
Agreed.
In the next year or so, if he got another world title shot against those, and you don't like to say that. I'm not going to write him off or limiting him or anything. It's, as I say, I would love him to go and do it and get a world title, but I think it's going to be a massive ask in that sort of division.
He's had a cracking career up to this point, and as you see, even just challenging for it, and he's never in a bad fight, and he's a big fan's favourite over there in Belfast, and the way himself and his family conduct themselves all week, I think they're a class act, and his brother as well, Michael, and all that lot, and I've just got a lot of admiration for him. I think, and he probably doesn't want to hear these plaudits, but just because he's lost, but I just like, what a hard man. Like, he's just a really tough warrior, and in that biggest sense of the word, he went out on his shield and he put everything into it, and there was absolutely no shame in losing it to Antas like he did. He talking about a real class act there. You can see why Manny Pacquiao's behind him as well, and he just sensational. Personally speaking, and I don't know how feasible this is, but we've touched on it, and I know Anthony Nelson's making a bit of he hasn't fought since the Jamie Conlan fight, and I know he's making a bit of a comeback next year. He's back in training under Mal Gates already, just shedding a few pounds and getting in shape, and he actually mentioned it last night. He was like, I'd absolutely mentioned it on his Instagram, saying I'd love the Conlan fight again, and I think it's a good fight.
It's a sellable fight though.
Yeah.
As you say, it's similar, not in terms of levels, but in terms of the way they are. Yeah. I think Nelson, like Frampton, could do with a couple of tune-up fights, get himself back in to fighting shape and that sharpness back, and then obviously Conlan's team would fancy their chances of winning that. So I think that.
Yeah, that's it. I think it was a fight of the year. I can't remember what year it was, 2015 or 2016, but it was the fight of the year.
Is that why you were sticking your fingers up there trying to counter me?
Waving at you, going 5 or 6. But I watched the highlights back again on the Box Nation feed on Facebook last night, and it never gets any less amazing, that Conlan Nelson fight.
But that could be one again. If both teams, like Nelson obviously said he would love it. I think from a Conlan point of view, they'll fancy their chances of winning it again.
I think they should.
And it would be a good one, yeah.
I seen a tweet last night. Someone was like, "Oh, Frank Warren's threw Conlan to the wolves here," and I thought that's a load of bollocks. Excuse me, language. No, he hasn't. He's worked himself into a world title shot, and whether you think he deserves it, and whether you think he's good enough for it, is irrelevant. I always remember this. What does he want? This man on Twitter, whoever he was, can't remember. What does he want?
Not worth mentioning a name, and I don't like him.
What does he want Jamie Conlan to say? And Frank Warren, no, you're alright, Frank. I'll not have this world title fight in me home.
He's too good.
I'll pass it by. I think, what a stupid thing.
We've had this with promoters and things before, and Frank Warren's actually criticised Eddie Hearn and vice versa about sending boxers abroad, especially across to America, without he hasn't really got a shot at winning that, but he's sent him over. So it's the biggest fight of his career. 2
examples for you: Gavin Rees when he fought Adrian Broner, and Brian Rose when he went across to fight Andrade. What do you want Brian Rose to turn around there and say? No, I'll not bother fighting.
Lee Purdy did it against Devin Alexander when he went as a replacement for Kell Brook.
What does he want to say? I'll not bother fighting for the world title and the biggest purse in my career. I'll just give it a miss. Like, it's not,
they'll know they're an underdog going in, of course they will.
You're in boxing to fight the best.
You've got that belief. You've got to have that self-belief, but also your camp. And
it was brutal last night. It was brutal, but Conlan had to take the chance fighting for the world title in his home city, and good on him. He didn't even disgrace himself at all. He was game as it comes, and there's a lot of, you search Jamie Conlan on Twitter, there's a lot of respect for him, and rightfully so as well. But as you say, let's go again, take a couple of steps back, and I'll never ever title watching Jamie Conlan. So, but fair credit to him, he's a credit to himself.
As you say, he's got that fan-friendly style. He's got a lot of fans, a lot of respect, and another Belfast boxer with a lot of fans and a lot of popularity building is Paddy Barnes.
Loved it. And I'll tell you why I loved it. Sorry, Kevin Keegan, I love it. I love Paddy Barnes, me. I'll tell you why I loved it, because I was mint amateur career, amazing. We know that. I just thought, is he, how do I word this without sounding disrespectful, is he too nice? Is he still that amateur who's, just a nice boxer?
Technically very good.
Nice. And I thought, there's no justification for thinking this. I thought, is he going to be another Tom Stalker who's a cracking, fantastic amateur, but who maybe can't transition
Never transitioned over the professional style.
But last night, loved it. Loved every side. He showed me a different side of him. He showed me his spiteful side, his nasty side. Delighted to see him get the stoppage victory because he answered a few questions in my head that I thought, wow, he does have that side and he can go for this, and he was faultless and good on him. Loved it. Just really enjoyed it, and the fans seemed to enjoy it too. And it was nice to see that he was sitting on his shots. He was was really going for it and technically brilliant as ever. And I thought, but just adding that spiteful, passionate, come forward side to him, and he was.
It's nice to see. It's nice to see that he's developing as a pro, because he's definitely got the sort of the profile on social media, and he's that modern sort of era of boxer, isn't he? Where he's really embraced that side of it. He's always seems to be having a good laugh and stuff, but then he can he can take it seriously and.
He was brilliant. I really enjoyed watching him, and. I'd like to see him again and see him progress towards a world title in the future, maybe in a year's time, certainly. So I was impressed with Paddy Barnes. I thought he boxed really well. It would be nice to see him progress from here, and I think he's definitely been fast tracked as well. I think it was last night's 5th fight. I think it was his 5th. And he's already now in the rankings, and he's got a bit of an international title on his arm now as well. So. Great to see him boxing in Belfast, where he's extremely popular, and I think I'm looking forward to watching his journey going forward, and I'm very impressed.
Speaking of making the rankings, John O'Carroll also did that in the card.
Yes, I believe he's now got a top 15 ranking with the
IBF. IBF Intercontinental Super Featherweight title was on the line. Humberto de Santiago.
I was pleased for John because he was meant to be fighting Deco Garrity, I think, on this card. That
would have been a rematch, wouldn't it?
It would have been which fell through, and I know there's been a heated exchange between both the last couple of days, and as to why it fell through. And Carroll said, he wasn't surprised. He knew Garrity didn't want the fight anyway. Garrity came back and said, that's a load of rubbish. Anyway, but he got this fight, and he's a bit of a conman in a way. He's never. It was a bit of a war for while it lasted. John O came out really, really fast from round 1. Really taking the fight. And for a man, he hasn't got. I don't think he's got any stoppages on his record, John O'Carroll.
He's got 2 after last night.
Has he got 2? Sorry, no. I apologise to John O for that. But he came out and he was flying. But he suffered cuts quite early on, and I say cuts. One of them was 2 cuts, 2 eyes, both eyes.
One above each eye. That's how you go.
That's what I was trying to say. One of them was massive, like a real bad cut, and it was quite a worrying thing at the time. And you could see he was maybe rushing his work because of that. But he was relentless, and Santiago, to his credit, was trying to fire back. But you could just sense that the bigger shots were coming from Jono, and he got him out of there. And it was lovely. It was lovely to see that, and he was absolutely delighted, and rightfully so. It was a cracking stoppage. For someone who you don't associate with having much power, there were some really big shots coming in there, and he said, I know a lot of boxers say this when they get a stoppage win, but he's getting bigger now, and his man strength, inverted commas, is maybe shining through, and he felt like he's always had power, but it's just delivering those power shots in a certain way. And and the commentator, the interviewer, asked him about his cuts, and he came up with a good line of, well, you don't go swimming and not get wet, which I thought he wasn't bothered. He's a character, John O'Neill, he always has been, and I think we've met him before and stuff. But
I've seen him on a couple of MTK shows up in Scotland.
And I think, remember when we went to see Crawler in Manchester, he was on the undercard.
Yeah, he was,
But a lot of fans, a couple of fans.
Was that the first fight on, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was dead early. But anyway, I like him, and I like to keep an eye on his career and stuff. And great to see him open the BT broadcast last night with a stoppage win. And he's again popular, and he seemed to absolutely thrive on the atmosphere. And I was pleased for him to secure that stoppage win. Certainly, good on him.
Sounds like a good show, all in all.
was, again, just to echo what we said last week, it's remarkable really to now see this Frank Warren renaissance and resurgence. You're talking two consecutive cracking shows in 2 weeks, which was sort of like unheard of for him for a couple of, you know what I mean? He's in proper arena shows now as well. It's, you know, he seemed to be quite southern centric.
I think even over the last couple of years, if he'd done that, they wouldn't have got the exposure and the attention that they're getting sort of recently.
And the depth, it wasn't there before where it is now, and turning that Tete, me great with Tete not being on BT Sport, as a negative into a positive, then, you know, you've got a world title fight, 5 fights down your bill, then it shows you've got a certain depth, you know. And last night, it seemed like a bit of an MTK showcase. I think every time I looked at my telly, Matthew Macklin was on, you know, and I think Danny Vaughan was in everyone's corner last night. You know, it was good to see Cowell and Barnes and Conlon and Frampton, and it seemed like a really strong show for Belfast and for Ireland and Northern Ireland, and the depth was there, and it was enjoyable. Enjoyed it a lot. Just long may that continue, this renaissance and resurgence of Frank Warren. I think the more boxing, as I keep repeating this a lot, but it's like my mantra, the more boxing that's on TV, the better it is for us fans and, you know, pundits, journalists, whatever you want to call people, bloggers.
I can't agree with people when we're talking about oversaturation of it and things like that.
Rubbish.
Very eloquently put there. I think if there's too much and is lacking quality, then that can potentially become a problem. But you're talking there about the depth of the stables, and as long as there is enough quality there, and it doesn't have to be this, everyone is this elite level quality. It's just, if you're matching your fighters in bouts against someone of a similar level, therefore aiming to make it competitive, and it's looking competitive on paper before the fight's taking place, then I've got no qualms with that whatsoever.
Some of the best fights you'll see are bloody area title fights.
Exactly.
Or English title fights or British title fights, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not all about the elite fights and the mega fights, and I think that's what we at British Boxing Blog we've always tried to do, and shine a light on your domestic guys as well, you know what I mean?
Well, one of those I was speaking to during the week, the interview is on YouTube, it was Chrissy Wood from Darlington, and we're not going to preview too much his next fight because we'll look at that more next week. But he's in one of those fights. He's 3-0, and he's fighting Jamie Humble, who's 5-0 for the Northern Area title at super bantamweight. And again, it's not one that's going to garner national headlines or generate massive interest. But in terms of the matchmaking, you cannot fault them for putting those two lads in. I was talking to his trainer as well, Peter Shepperson, and he said like Chrissy could easily fight another 5 journeymen and then think, right, well, I'm ready for a Northern Area. His last fight was a 4-rounder, I think, and then he's going in a 10-rounder.
And that was his first fight for a couple of years as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And he says he's not in it to waste time. And obviously, you mentioned Paddy Barnes getting fast tracked to a world title. On the local scene, this is them getting fast tracked. They were talking that they think he's definitely sort of ready for an English title. I mean, there was bits were said sort of before and after the actual interview. You can watch the interview on YouTube. Some good crack with Chrissy, actually. He was a really nice lad, and he answered a lot of the questions honestly. And he was very respectful of Jamie, to be honest, and they both were. But they also think that the lads at Fighting Chance and Jamie's team may be potentially overlooking him.
Yeah, certainly. And I think the North East is getting better for that actually now, making genuine, to coin Phil Jeffries' catchphrase, 50-50 fights. You know, and there seems to be more happening up here now, and I
think it's the only way to go, because if you're trying to attract fans, yes, you're relying on your boxers selling tickets to their mates and, oh yeah, they want to see you in a fight. But if you pay your 35 quid and you see him, oh, he's made his debut, brilliant, he's went 4 rounds against some unknown foreign opponent, oh brilliant, it was a great night, and yes, that'll last. But if you do that 3 or 4 times and your mate's still fighting the same unknown journeyman, often, literally, the same unknown journeyman, a couple of times in his first few fights because he can't get any other opponents, the interest wanes, and then it is difficult for the boxers to shift the tickets. Whereas if you're saying, right, he's in a 50-50 fight against a lad from Sunderland, he's from Newcastle, there's that added element, that added edge to it already.
I think it's great that it's happening now, locally, nationally, you know, call it what you will. That boxers are one of the biggest criticisms people had about boxing was for a while was padded records and people not putting the O inverted commas on the line, and it does seem to now be happening, and I think the more that happens the better. And just going back to Frank Warren, and I just think British boxing, to be healthy, to be relevant, to make the best fights, that competition, rivalry, whatever you want to call it, between Matchroom and Frank Warren is good for the game, really. And it's alright, we would probably like to see them work together more, but I'm not complaining if there's boxing on Sky Sports, BT Sport, Box Nation, Channel 5, whoever wants to show boxing, is ITV Box Office, ITV4, whatever, it's good, and there's enough to keep everyone happy, and there's enough dates there to fill that, and enough fighters to keep busy and stuff, and I'm all for it, mate.
I can't argue with that, to be honest.
And I know Cyclone have got a show coming up again on 5 and Spike, I think it's December the 2nd.
Again, it's on Channel 5
Leicester,
there.
which is Flow Under the Radar, which we'll probably look at again next week. But and
possible Josh Taylor opponent fighting on there, defending his European title, isn't he? Anthony Yigit.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, Swedish boxer. So again, it's all sort of seems to be building nicely going into 2018.
Certainly. Just for us too, I think we've had a really good positive week. I think doing obviously started off with the Newcastle show last weekend, which we touched about. We then followed that up on Wednesday evening. We drove to Forest Hall Boxing Club to see the British lightweight champion Lewis Ritson, and just what a pleasure that was.
I was just going to say what a treat that was.
It was brilliant, honestly. We as we mentioned previously, we did the North East Boxing Awards a couple of weeks ago. We helped put that together. Well, we didn't really do it, we presented them, but Steve Wraith did a lot.
We took the votes and sorted the tickets.
We did, but
presented flawlessly.
Lewis couldn't make it, unfortunately, and but we put together a little something for him. We give him a plaque of him holding the belt from when he beat.
It was a canvas, it wasn't a plaque.
It wasn't a plaque, it was a canvas. That's the one.
You'd be sitting listening to this thinking, where's my plaque?
Where's my plaque? Yeah. So we went to see him on Wednesday, and honestly, it was just we'd known Lewis. We met him before in the past and stuff, but not on that level. And we both went to see him, and it was honestly what a down to earth, lovely lad. We couldn't have been made more welcome by Lewis and Dave Ritson and Owen Ray as well, who make up his team there at Forest Hall Boxing Club. And again, a great local community gym, and it was heaving with a class on, and we had a chat on camera and off camera with Lewis, which was funny, and really enjoyed doing it.
It was another thing we've done where we did receive quite a bit of positive feedback. People were saying, what a good interview. Like, again, more of the praise was going to Lewis, and deservedly so, because we both came out and said that was probably one of the best and one of the easiest interviews we've ever done.
Yeah.
We asked him a few questions, some more probing than others, hardly the more, not really massively in depth, to be honest, but he was just so easy to talk to, and as you said there, laid back, down to earth. Gave some good, really entertaining answers. Again, that's on our YouTube channel if you want to have a look at that.
I'd honestly have a look. It was a really good interview. He's funny, he's engaging. You can't help but like the lad. He's always smiling.
And he's got some big plans again. He broke down what Eddie had in store for him, and so he's now a British champion. He's looking to defend that and hopefully win that belt outright. That was his sort of next few steps.
I think it's no secret, to be honest, and it should be announced tomorrow, and if it's not, then I'm going to look like an idiot here. But I've seen it on his trainer's Facebook as well that it looks 99% sure that he's going to defend his British title against Tommy Coyle on the Bellew Hay undercard, which is a cracking fight for him, as similar to what we're saying about Conlon. Tommy Coyle's never really in a bad fight, you know what I mean?
Oh no, again, he's
a warrior.
He'll keep coming forward and getting up as long as he physically can, I think.
And I think, Tommy Coyle gave it everything for, to win that British title or to have an opportunity to do so. It's a huge fight.
I'm putting it out there though with my massive North East bias that it is a very good stylistic matchup for Lewis Ritson. I think he's big body punching, he's strong, and hopefully for his sake and for sort of the North East sake, he'll walk down Tommy eventually and get to him. I think he will stop him. But from what you said there, Tommy's experienced, he's tough, and he'll make it hard work for as long as it lasts, I think. It should be a really entertaining fight.
He's fought better names than Lewis, he's fought Casillas, he's fought
Luke Campbell,
Terry Matthews, Luke Campbell. Hasn't won them all, but he's fought them, and he's been around the block now, Tommy, and I think this is a huge opportunity for him, and it should be a great fight. Just to put it in context for Lewis, he was 2 fights ago, he was fighting for the Northern Area title at Rayton Meadows, and for those not familiar with Rayton Meadows, it's a small sort of venue in a bit of an industrial estate up here in Durham, really, and it's just to now have this opportunity that he's got with Matthew on he signed a 5-fight deal, which he disclosed to us last week, and from going to Rayton Meadows to the O2 in 2 fights is absolutely incredible.
And going in with that momentum of he's not just sort of there because he's shifting tickets. He is a popular fighter, and I think he does sell quite well. But obviously, it's what he's done in the ring that's impressed Matchroom and sort of forced their hand really in terms of picking him up.
Oh, his destruction of Robbie Barrett was sensational. He was fantastic that night. But honestly, please have a look at the YouTube interview. It was you'll see what we're talking about when we call him, an engaging lad and a nice guy as well. He made a lovely cup of tea. But please watch that interview. It's really good. And I'm sure you'll walk with him like we did, and we wish him all the best. And we thank him again and thank his team for allowing us to go. Without their permission and access, then we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And it's I get that maybe not everyone likes you going to the gyms, but we couldn't have been made more welcome. And then the following night, the Thursday night, Andrew, I couldn't make this one unfortunately, but Andrew went, as he said, to see Chrissy Wood here in Darlington. Yeah,
it did, and again, the interview's there for you all to see, and it was again another sort of place where I was really made to feel welcome. It was actually where I did my training for my white collar bout.
I thought
I had to drop that in.
It doesn't take long to mention that.
And what I was going to say with that is basically, obviously I knew Peter a little bit through that, but I think he sort of more respects the fact that we are trying to shine a light on the professional boxers and stuff, and again we had a good bit crack before and after the actual interview, but that's not to say there's anything said off record that was missed out of the interview. Chrissy answered all the questions honestly, as I've already mentioned. It's well worth a watch, and again he's not a matchroom fighter who's British champion, but it gave a great insight into what the boxers go through at all levels really.
And I think for us venturing out into the video side of things, I think when we first started British Boxing Blog a couple of years back, we were very much written side of things. We would, we'd always often go for the 10 question format question and answer thing, which we love doing, but boxers don't get that opportunity to bring their personality across in a sort of written email answer, and not everyone can be as forthcoming on emails. You sometimes on 10 questions, and boxers aren't really sitting at laptops typing back 10 answers.
A very rigid format, wasn't it?
You know what it was? It wasn't as engaging really, and videos is something that we never really thought about at the time, because but now I think that, and obviously our confidence is increasing and we're getting used to doing it. It's something that we're really enjoying doing. And
it was John Lewis Dickinson, wasn't he, who spoke to us at the awards, and he was a few pints of Guinness in, but he was saying as a boxer and boxing fans, you want that sort of ease of access and something you can just have straight away as a video and a podcast you can listen to or watch on the move. Obviously we're 2017 now, aren't we?
That's it.
You've all got like mobile devices that you can access the videos and things on.
We still will keep the written content coming, and it's videos is something that we're new at, and we're not trying to be the new IFL or what have you, but it is a good way of getting people's personality across, and there is literally nobody that we wouldn't speak to. I think everyone involved in boxing in some way is worth an interview, and we'll happily shine a light on the the local heroes and the unsung heroes really. We're always on the lookout to do more interviews, whether that's written or videos, and it's what we started the site for really, and it's what we were originally doing. So it's been a really
hopefully look to build on that. And again, we don't often through work both working full time. We don't often get the chance to attend the sort of media events during the week and get as much access as we'd like. But evenings, weekends, wherever we can, we will try and update that and add to the YouTube catalogue that we're sort of slowly starting to build.
And just to balance it out, obviously we'll try and go down to fighting chance.
I was going to mention if Lewis Pendleton's listening, then Stephen will go and speak to Jamie just in the interest of fairness.
It's 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks. 2 minutes from my house, so it's easy to go and see Jamie to sort of balance out that Northern Area title fight coverage, and it's another place where we've been made to feel very welcome. So we'll hopefully do that either this week or next in the run up to that fight. Just staying on the northeast scene for now, just to round off, it's actually this week coming as another fight week up here. There's another show on. A very I don't think you could get any more grassroots than this show. It's on Friday the 24th of November at the Scotswood Social Club, which for those of you who don't know is right in the west end of Newcastle, and it's being put on by our good friends Matt Jobs, showcasing his fighters, and alongside Steve Wraith, the local promoter here, who I'm sure needs no introduction, bit of a local legend. But so we'll be there on Friday night, and we're looking forward to that. And I'm sure Andrew is now about to tell you who's fighting and what the situation is with that.
You've put it right on me there, because I was looking on BoxRec earlier, and it's not actually listed as being on this Friday. I couldn't find it anywhere.
It definitely is.
But I've just checked on Matt Job's Facebook and Job's gym there, and it is seemingly still going ahead, which is obviously good news.
On, yeah.
Just to reiterate what Stephen said there, there's sort of listed as 6 fights being on, and we've just sort of sang the praises of having close 50-50 encounters and not just sort of padding the records, but the situation that Matt Jobs is in, and when we spoke to him, he sort of had an open sparring event, didn't he, last month?
At the same venue,
to sort of open and announce that he'd acquired this venue, and he's got a good stable of young fighters who have all just about in the same sort of stage of their careers, really in the fledgling stages of their careers, and only 1 or 2 fights each, and he's struggled to get them on other promoters' cards in the Northeast because just what we were saying about the depth. All the promoters seem to have a lot of their own boxers that they obviously want to prioritise. And now Matt was saying, with the help of Steve Wraith in this instance, and he says he's happy to work with Phil Jeffries and other promoters in the region, he's got his own venue now, right on his doorstep of his gym.
It is literally a social club.
Right within the catchment of where his boxers can shift the tickets.
Yeah, it's not making them go to Darlington or St James's Park or Raton Meadows, and trying to get people to go to Durham on a Friday night when you're from Newcastle. There's a bit of a distance there, and he's literally now, it's everything under one roof, and it is a social club, but that's not I'm not talking down at that. It's going to be a really, really good venue and a good lively atmosphere in there as well. And I think what Matt's done really is, well, actually, if I can't get them on shows, I'll make the show come to me. And I think it's a really refreshing sort of DIY attitude to be like, right, I'm going to sort this venue and I'm going to help me lads with these tickets and get them on fights. And I think alongside Steve Wraith, I think it'll be a cracking night, and I really like the idea of it. It's there's no glitz and glamour. It's as down to earth as you can get. But I think it's a great way for him now to get all his fighters a fight, basically, or most of his fighters.
Well, one of the major pluses that he mentioned was the fact that he's using his sort of reputation within the area to help sell the tickets.
Yeah.
So there's not that pressure of the boxers, as you say, to sell the tickets, try and organise transport for your fans to get to an arena or a venue that might be an hour's trip there and back. And
of course, yeah.
It's a massive show of support, I think, for his boxers, and a big show of faith in them that obviously they'll be very keen to repay.
And I think it'll be busy as well. I think this venue will really help as well.
We mentioned it's intimate and it's a good little layout for the boxers. One of them who's going to be on the card is a young fighter called Mark Taylor, who I'm familiar with because I actually used to work with his sister at Newcastle Building Society. That's how I was sort of aware of him as an amateur. And then speaking to Matt and stuff, realised that he'd actually turned pro with Matt. He's one who's, I think, is in the super welterweight division, so he's looking at 154 pounds, but he's 6'1", 6'2", very, very tall, and is able to use that range with the jab and keep moving. I think he's definitely one to sort of keep an eye out for.
No, definitely. I think just to tell you who else is on, we've got James Barnes on there, who, for those of you who know James, was a heavyweight basically, wasn't he? But
remarkable transformation.
The transformation Matt's made with him is just absolutely incredible. Just shredded him, absolutely shredded. He looks brilliant. I think is he down at light heavy now? Is he cruiser?
He was, yeah. He's light heavy cruiser, I think, yeah.
Yeah. So he's on there. James
looks like a different man.
Oh, he is, because he was another fighter, James, who was going on the road, wasn't getting decisions. He was losing. And no, I'm not saying he deserved every decision, but sometimes he didn't get them. Other times he was getting beaten. It was sort of just plodding along, going nowhere. But I think Matt sort of changed his outlook, changed his appearance, changed his psychology, and thinking, there's a good boxer here in James, and why sort of flog him out on the road, and let's get some wins behind him and get him in shape and see where he can go. So I think it's great to see James on the up as well, because he's a lovely, lovely lad, James. There it is, lovely lad.
There
it is.
Taking about an hour, we've got that one in.
As Andrew mentioned, Mark Taylor's on there, Connor Somerville's on there too, I think another guy that Matt's got high hopes for as well. Chrissy Atkinson's on there, looks in fantastic shape.
He was one at the open sparring along with Mark Taylor and James Bonds, and he looked absolutely fantastic.
He did.
Raring to go.
He's posted a photo on Twitter earlier on today, and it just said the transformation in him is just amazing. He looks in great shape. Chrissy's on there as well. And it's a huge night for these lads. It's a chance for them to really showcase their skills in front of their friends, family, local crowd. It'll mean the world to them. So if there is any local listeners listening in and you want to come along, then get in touch with us or Matt Jobs or Steve Wraith on Twitter. There's still tickets available.
We'll both be there.
Be a fantastic night.
That's a great incentive for anyone.
Come and hang out with us, you're more than welcome. But it'll be a great night in a really low-key, fun venue. I'm sure the pints will be cheap because it's a social club. So,
win-win.
Feel free to come along, and it'd be great for North East Fight fans to get behind that. So it's one we're looking forward to as well. And just to finish off, we'll stay on the North East scene. We've got one of our fighters from up here, Peter Cope, who I'm sure you'll be familiar with, a lot of you. He's been around for a while now, Peter. Another guy who's going through a bit of a career renaissance. He's got a fight in Doncaster against Andy Townend on a Steffi Bull show this Saturday. I think it's a Commonwealth title eliminator, so it's a massive fight for him.
And it's a rematch of an earlier loss from Peter's career. And I think he'd be the first to say, and obviously we'll second it, that he's in a totally different place in his career now to when he was then. We mentioned, I know we've mentioned previously Neil Fannin, who received our Trainer of the Year award, and he's working with Peter and Dan Cope, and I think Adam as well, the younger Cope brother.
Yeah.
And I know from seeing Peter out recently that his boxing seems much improved, and obviously he fought on the Next Gen show and didn't quite get the decision there, but he was boxed really, really well that night.
Against Highland, wasn't it?
It was, and he's a boxer again. He's got a massive backing and he can sell tickets, but he's in the position now where he says he's willing to take the risks and fight on the road, and obviously he's going down to Doncaster with a massive confidence of getting the win.
We've definitely seen an improvement in Peter since he went with Neil Fannin, and he will start as the underdog for this, and he knows that, but if
he's been in that position before.
If the best Peter Cope turns up and the Peter Cope that fought Highland turns up, then he's got a good chance here, and we wish Peter all the best. I know Lewis Ritson spoke very highly of him in the week.
Yeah, he said sparred and around with him.
He's got a lot of respect for Peter and for Neil and the setup there, and we wish Peter all the best. He's a top lad and someone we've covered a lot since we started, and him and his brother Daniel and the rest of his 10 million brothers are lovely lads. Great, lovely lad along, going off again. Great boxing family up here, honestly they are, aren't they? They're backed by the Barmy Army from Hartlepool, and they'll sell tickets wherever they go. They've got such a loyal fan base. Seen no local support like it, to be honest. No, it's mental, it's brilliant. I think the North East sort of owes them a lot, really. They're sort of flag bearers for North East boxing, the Copes, and it's a great setup, and we hope Pete, being impartial here, but we hope Pete does the business and can come back with the win, because it's a great opportunity for him to Commonwealth eliminator, and let's hope the best Peter Cope turns up and gives it a good shot on Saturday, and we'll keep you updated next week as to how that goes, and it'll be a fight we're keeping a close eye on Saturday evening. And just while we're talking about obviously Saturday, there's a couple of other fights for sort of regional boxing fans to keep their eye on, not necessarily to the North East, right, but just on one of my regular trolls on BoxRec, found a couple that might pique your interest anyway, probably not many others. So Liam Conroy is fighting Chris Hobbs for the British light heavyweight English title. I said British Board of Boxing Control English light heavyweight title. Right. And Liam's a fighter that we've seen on a couple of the MTK in Manchester shows. Yeah, I like Liam. He sort of nice guy, seems to be picking up a bit of power, just what you were saying there, developing that bit of man strength, and he's won his last 3 on the within the distance by knockout. It's good to see. We covered Liam quite heavily in our early days on British Boxing Blog. We were regular visitors to Preston Guildhall, and he was often on them shows, and it's great to see him go from strength to strength with the backing of the guys down there. So. And another one, I'm going to test your knowledge here. Go on, shoot. He's fighting for the Southern Area Cruiserweight title against Wadi Camacho
And if you can tell me where we've seen this boxer, and I'll be very impressed.
Definitely wasn't in the plan for this podcast.
Normally we have a little chat
I'm on edge here
about what we're going to include, and then this has not been mentioned at all, so I'm dying to see his reaction.
Go on.
His birthplace was Angola, and he's now fighting out of London. Jose Lopez.
Mint, yes. Jose Lopez. We saw Jose Lopez on the undercard of David Hay, Mark Demori at the O2,
yes.
where Steve Goodwin curated the undercard, and we were impressed with him. I remember. We had a chat with him after, and he boxed really well that night.
He's actually lost since then.
I thought he might have lost since then. I was going to say that.
He lost to Ozzy Javier.
Did he?
Got stopped in the 9th round of a 10-rounder. But bounced back with a win in his last fight, and now he's fighting in the southern area against Wally Camacho.
So the enigma that is Wally Camacho.
Well, they're getting 2 more fights that we'll probably not cover. We won't see any of, but the ones to look out for if you're in those sorts of areas.
I'm sure Martin from New Age will be there.
They'll be fantastic fights. Those
gets a mention every week, Martin, doesn't he? Is that Steve? I'll take that to Steve Goodwin.
Yeah, it's Goodwin Promotions.
Your call, yeah.
I'm not actually sure. I imagine so.
That's not your call. I'll be amazed. I'm sure that honestly you get yourself along. It's a venue we still haven't been to, and we say this all the time, but we will rectify that next year, I promise. The southern scene is one that is not how do I word it?
Not one we're familiar with.
Not one
really.
we're too familiar with, and
obviously just through distance and geography, we don't get to cover it.
There are great accounts on Twitter, New Age Boxing Luton, I think covers it quite closely as well. But honestly, we would love to get down on Steve Goodwin's shows, and when we've dealt with him in the past, himself and Kevin Campion and a few of those guys have been absolutely spot on. But next year we will be looking to get back down south, certainly, and that'll be a great fight. As I said earlier, area title fight is something special, and that's another good fight.
Can confirm is indeed your call.
Your call, fantastic. But no, it's
sound
great.
Like you know what you're talking about there.
Without your bread and butter and your regional shows and your people like the Goodwins and your Steve Rates and your Phil Jeffries, etc., then boxing, it keeps the livelihood of boxing alive in this country, and it's something that we're very passionate about, and we love it, and we wish everyone good luck. Those fighters, good luck that we mentioned this weekend, and wish them all the best, and it should be a great weekend of boxing yet again. So next week we'll keep you updated on how those went. I think that's about it, isn't it, in terms of what we're looking to discuss this week. We've covered everything. Obviously on social media there was a bit of an uproar with a certain heavyweight champion and some apparent I'm not sure what's going on with AJ.
Either being hacked or has he just, I think you mentioned earlier, is the mask slipping apparently? Apparently
today we're not going for the hacked angle, it's now the it was internal, it was from his Twitter account, but we are going for that. We're going from someone in his camp maybe, that's, it wasn't a fake account, it was definitely from his, and
because that was originally Earn straight away came out and said it was a fake account and looked for the space in the underscore or something, and then on loads of screenshots there wasn't, and I think it was Eddie Chambers' manager, bizarrely, I love how it's Eddie Chambers that he's messaged
Eddie Chambers, I've never thought about Eddie Chambers in years, and suddenly he's back and you think, well, wow.
And you're thinking, is this building up their Chambers Joshua and sell out of 80,000 at Wembley?
I don't know, is this the mask slipping, is he this nice, stay humble guy that we all think of and who's been carefully managed to this point, and who's on TV with Bear Grylls the other week, and what a lovely guy, AJ, and when he's on Graham Norton, and
see that
the butter wouldn't melt, look, is that true? We know he's had a bit of a past and we get that.
That annoys me though, if
AJ's been now marketed as this squeaky clean, stay humble role model.
I'd rather he was like aggressive, shit talking.
And a couple of weeks, we've seen the thing on his Twitter feed with Kugan Cassius a couple of weeks back, and he was calling Tyson Fury, and you think, this is a new site. Is it just to keep his name relevant at the minute, because...
But the thing is, because of the way he has been almost raised and developed, it's been so successful, so then why would they change that?
Well,
I was sat talking to our auntie earlier today.
To who?
Our auntie.
Auntie Grace.
And she said, loves Anthony Joshua. I haven't mentioned him, and she knows who he is. She's watched the Bear Grylls thing, or knows of it, he's a lovely lad and all this. And there's a lady who's zero interest, probably even goes as far as dislikes boxing in general, and is fully aware of him and knows who he is. So you think from that point of view,
it's a number of things, like last week I noticed Talk Sport on Drive and Talk Sport, Adrian Durham and Goffey were talking about him, and who should he fight, and he's just saying, is it just a media camp? Like, I don't understand why we're talking about AJ at this point, because he's got nothing lined up, and like.
Oh, I absolutely despise the polls and stuff. Is he the best heavyweight since? Would you beat any of these in his prime?
Would he have beat Holyfield? And I think, it's such. It annoys me when people who don't know boxing try and talk about it sometimes, and talk sport are quite bad for that. And I don't know, is this just all one massive thing to just keep...
Double-edged sword though, isn't it, really? Because you want the sport to get the coverage and the exposure in the mainstream press, and then when they try and do it, you're like, you don't know what you're talking about, so it's annoying, and it is both sides of it.
I guess the truth will come out at some point, is the mask slipping, or someone I see on social media saying, is it because his promotional deal with Eddie Hearn's coming to an end and the real age is starting to surface and stuff, but time will tell, and I don't know, it's all a bit OK magazine and a bit celebrity nonsense for me, and
I'd agree with that.
Let's just see what happens, and until he's got a fight date, and
I'd much rather discuss the actual boxing and what goes on in the ring. But we thought we'd address that as enthusiastically as we could.
You don't want to talk about Amir Khan's jungle campaign kicking off tonight, do you? No, we'll leave that there, shall we? We wish Amir all the best on his quest of bush tucker trials and the like.
That sounded very sincere.
It sounded very partridge. But no, again, thank you for listening though. I think that'll wrap up for this week. Unless there's anything else you want to cover, no?
There was one other question.
Still hasn't finished.
Yeah, we've dropped this in from Fighting Chance PR.
Oh, right, sorry.
Which amateur star would you like to see make transition into the pro game? He watched Lee McGregor, obviously last Saturday night on the Cyclone Bill, who he's looked forward to turning over for a while and was mightily impressive.
Locally speaking, I'm looking forward to see the McCormacks turn over.
They were the exact two I was thinking of to answer that question.
Just another...
We hadn't rehearsed that either.
No, we haven't. I didn't know he was going to ask that question. Just two local brothers from Burtley Boxing Gym, Burtley Boxing Club, who have had a stellar amateur career, who still are having a stellar amateur career. Burtley's produced some fantastic fighters over the years.
It is, it's been one of the top gyms in the area for a long time.
Absolutely amazing. Two likeable lads, personality again, and I think they'll I look forward to seeing
both talented as well, from what sort of limited I've seen of the amateur game, and again, they're just two really exciting fighters, and when they turn over, I think it's a matter of when rather than if.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there'll be a queue at the door.
They'll generate a bit of interest. They'll be with a big promoter straight away, and hopefully, again, they'll add to the sort of northeast scene. It's just growing and developing fantastically well at the minute.
100%, yeah, definitely. That would be. I'd echo that completely. Yeah, certainly. That would be my answer to that question.
We'll just leave them to sort of build on their amateur success for now before we start shoving them in down promoters' throats.
No, I'm sure when they do turn over, there'll be a queue at their doors for their signatures. Certainly, definitely.
So remember, if you haven't already, subscribe on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook, and you can get the same information 3 times over.
He doesn't have so much, does he? But no, thank you again for listening. We'll update you next week with the local shows and see how they've gone. And again, thank you though, it means a lot, and thank you for your questions too. Cheers, thanks.